it's May, and that means we may just have broken our attendance records, folks. Good going.
Here's the thing. I was so focused on the details, right? I totally lost sight of the big picture. You know what I mean? Like, I was obsessed with getting these coupons. And I totally lost sight of why I was collecting these coupons in the first place. You know, to do what Jeffrey did, to save some money. And it wasn't like hundreds of dollars, right? It was a little bit. And here's the thing about obsessions. They make you blind. Obsessions will make you blind. And that can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing. Because if it's moving you in the direction where you want to go, that's great. And so here's my question. What obsession is keeping you from seeing the big picture?
Because a colleague of mine, just a few months into my job there, a colleague of mine, his father died suddenly and kind of before his time. And this particular colleague and I were very, very close, and he's actually the guy who recruited me to the company. And so I thought, you know, you always wonder at moments like that whether you should go to the funeral or not. And he was someone that I considered a friend, and we were quite close colleagues, and he's the one who got me back to Nova Scotia. So I thought it was appropriate that I should go to the funeral. And so I went to the funeral. It was down at Canadian Martyrs Church down at St. Mary's. And I had the shock of my life because probably half of the company was there at this funeral for the father of a colleague. And it really touched me. And so I ended up invoking this story at a management team meeting as something that really set this company apart from lots of other companies that I've worked for, including Microsoft.
The other competent firefighters and me were on the sidewalk, and one of the ladies came to me and said, "Fifi is still inside." We tried to catch him, but he wouldn't. Now, Fifi is one of these small lap dogs that bark incessantly when there's nothing to bark at, and bark twice as much when there is. Can you go rescue Fifi? I had my life's purpose. The Mission Impossible theme just started running in my head, and I went to the entry officer to say, "Fifi's upstairs, and this woman wants Fifi out." "Okay," he said, "take Mike with you and go upstairs." Now, recognizing one of the cool things about being a firefighter is you get to wear the firefighter stuff, right? So you look like Biff the Michelin Man, and you get to wear this big helmet, and you get to wear a pack on your back, and you get to do these really cool stuff. So even though you can't do anything, it's like playing third base. You look like you can do something. So you can imagine poor Fifi, who was really struggling with the fact that this fire alarm was still going off. Everybody had abandoned Fifi, and Fifi was having a panic attack.
I mean, my wife, the joke around our house is, "You're not funny, Hooey." And one day I'm in my office and I'm listening to some CDs of places I've spoken so that we can turn it into product and people can buy it and take me home. And she came in and she said, "What's that noise?" And I said, "That's people laughing." She said, "Who's speaking?" And I said, "It was me." She said, "Really?" She said, "I may not be funny in Egremont, but in Whitehorse, I'm hilarious. I was speaking for the Chamber of Commerce brought me in for tourism to speak, and it was funny." I still have no idea what I said, but they enjoyed it, maybe because they don't get out much. And it was 48 below outside, so I was giving them a warm welcome. But it's important to experiment with humor. I mean, humor is everything that you do. Lisa's going to get up and talk about having a happy divorce and an even happier second marriage. I think it's wonderful. You know, somebody asked me, because my wife is here, we're newlyweds, which means we've been married less than 5 years. And somebody asked me the other day, "So is this your first marriage?" And I said, "No, it's my last one. I learned from the first one. It just about killed me."
Now, I didn't know what Toastmasters was. I had visions of a bunch of people standing around practicing toasts with one another. That's what I thought. Wasn't the case. Sociables. You know the routine. But it turned out that it was a group of people interested in dealing with their fear of speaking. So my manager brought me to a hotel room, little meeting room, and I remember going in so distinctly. We walked to the far side of the room and we sat at the table. And when I sat down, it struck me. There's only one door. Guess where that door was? As far away from me as humanly possible. And I had a moment of panic. I'm trapped. Fortunately, I got over that and I stayed. Came back to another meeting and several meetings after. About 2 years in, I started to get very comfortable speaking in front of a group of people because of my Toastmasters experience.
I didn't want a dog, but what 2 little boys don't want a dog? They were thrilled, and this was a big, messy, sloppy, misbehaving dog. But they loved him, and their little faces would light up when they'd come home with their Oscar stories. Mom, guess what? Oscar opened every box of chocolates under our Christmas tree and ate them all. Or, Mom, Grandma came to visit this weekend and Oscar threw up in her shoes. And I thought, wow, this really is a wildflower. They're enjoying this great dog and I have nothing to do with it. It's perfect. So that was really great. But then came Mother's Day. And I remember that Friday afternoon when my young son came home from school and he had this look of worry on his face. And as he opened his backpack, I realized that he was really struggling with who to give that one special handmade Mother's Day card to. And we all know how we treasure those things from our children, and we save them, and they mean so much. But the look of relief on his little face when I said to him, you know what, honey? I really think you should give that card to your stepmom this year. I think she'd really, really love it. And that look on his face was worth any card that I've ever received.